Author Ta-Nehisi Coates is joining us this hour with a discussion about an issue that we tend to associate with the past, the attempted banning of books here in America. These 10 books were the most, quote, challenged books last year. So that means someone attempted to get them banned, usually at a public library or school. 4 of the 10 deal specifically with race and racism. 3 were ultimately banned in some communities. For 3 years in a row, the most challenged book has been banned for LGBTQIA+ content. In 2020, one of the banned books was Between the World and Me, and that's why Ta-Nehisi Coates is here for this discussion. He's also part of an event this week with the authors of several other banned works, including Ibram X. Kendi and Nikole Hannah-Jones. Ta-Nehisi Coates, we're going to move on from football and talk about books. Okay, so let's look at this. 4 of the top 10 books were banned because of, it's called anti-black racism. Is that a coincidence to you? What do you make of that?
No, I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think for most of American history, African-American authors have not had the purchase on the American conscience that they have right now. We've always talked among ourselves. Mostly the dialogue in terms of books has been amongst ourselves. You're at a moment where, people like Ibram Kendi, people like Nikole Hannah-Jones, they're reaching a lot of people. Ibram sells a lot of books. The 1619 Project was seen by a lot of people. So this is really about white people, and particularly white children, now being exposed to ideas that I think previously were segregated, frankly.
So does it make parents and teachers uncomfortable? Why do you think it's happening?
I don't know that it even makes parents and teachers uncomfortable. I think it makes certain politicians in our system uncomfortable. The 1619 Project was cited in an executive order. There are laws, for instance, passed in Texas that specifically mention this work. So this is the state. This isn't just,
local level.
Exactly. I don't want my kid reading this. This is actually state action banning some of this work.
What are the stakes in this fight?
I think it's the political imagination, which is a big term. But we think about going into the voting booth, to make choices about what policies, what politicians we want. But you can't understand, for instance, why healthcare should be a human right if you don't understand history, if you don't understand the context in which things happen. If you can't put yourself in the shoes of somebody that doesn't have health care. That's what books do. They expand the political imagination. They let you know what you're actually voting for in the first place.
I want to get back to your book, Between the World and Me, which is about being black in America. It was challenged and banned. What was your reaction to that when you heard the news?
Well, actually, I just heard this today. In fact, when we were talking in the green room. I mean, obviously, I've known for years that it's been banned, for instance, in prisons. And I get occasional things about it being banned in schools. But the big one I actually heard about was We Were 8 Years in Power, where there was a teacher down in Tennessee, Matt Hahn, who was fired for teaching an essay in there. And that's just part of a wave that is happening. It is, state legal action to, really prevent certain ideas from being entering into the mainstream conversation.
But I like Nate's question, though, because what is your reaction? Here you have this best-selling book that has been really widely acclaimed and very well received, to hear that your work is being banned.
So I'll be fine. Between the World and Me sold a lot of books. I'm okay. I'm still getting my royalty checks. I'm sorry for kids. One of the things I was saying, back when we were talking before is my consciousness and my sense of the world was not just formed by black authors and by authors who validated my world, but by authors who challenged. Authors, in fact, who at this very day, I will tell you, were cold racists. But I needed to know. I needed to know what the world is. And so when you start saying to a kid, or your kids, I only want you to read things that validate my point of view, that's no longer education, that's indoctrination.
But I'm trying to figure out, Ta-Nehisi, why your book was banned. Do you know? Have you been given a reason about why the book was banned?
I have to be honest, I have not interrogated it too much, but if I had to guess, I think it goes back to what we were saying at the top.
To this point about education versus indoctrination, I think it's important to point out that people on the right, politicians, would say they're the ones being canceled and shut out. They're not included in conversation. And when you're endorsing a wide range of ideas, you're saying in an educational environment, you should be able to read just about anybody.
Right. Yes, I totally agree with that. And as I said before, it is very much the books that challenge my point of view that I think are dead wrong, that actually helped form my consciousness. I would make a big differentiation. We have not seen a political movement in state legislatures, for instance, in executive orders that actually target work. That's happening to a particular band of work, and that hasn't happened as much on the right. If it did, I would be as opposed to that.
Real quick before we go, what's your message to parents who might be hearing about this? What can they do in order to expose their kids to a wide range of ideas and books?
I think parents can read themselves.
There you go.
I think parents can read themselves. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you can educate yourself, you know, and avoid your own indoctrination.
Well said. Thank you so much. Ta-Nehisi Coates, we appreciate you.